Trigger warning: mentions of violence, kidnapping, imprisonment, and a lot of trauma. If you're sensitive to any of these topics, please leave now. If you're still here, let's get on with the video. Quirks Swallowed in Shadow, an MHA AU fanfiction, written by Arya Slavier. Chapter 4: Rescue and Realization. The winged man was speaking into what looked like a cell phone.
I've infiltrated the facility. There seems to be some sort of strange laboratory down here under the abandoned school building. What they're doing experiments on? I don't know yet. Yeah, I'll keep you updated if I find anything. Hawks out, the man said, finally seeming to be ending a report.
Nezuko was surprised. No one had found out about this place in the 4 years they had been here. This could be their only shot. How to get his attention? Nezuko turned and saw a small piece of debris on the ground from one of the previous tests of the day. She picked it up and threw it in the direction of the winged man. It landed right next to his foot. He seemed to hear the clang and turned in Mizuko's direction.
Who's there?
The man asked. Mizuko froze. She didn't know how to answer, but she knew she had to say something. That was me, she said, cautiously stepping toward the winged man. He looked at her in surprise, for a good reason. Mizuko at that point was a skinny preteen girl, in dirty clothes and pale from malnutrition and exhaustion. He walked up to her and put his hands on her shoulders.
Hey, what's your name, kiddo? He asked.
Mizuko Miyasho, she said, looking down, scared to look him in the eye.
Hey, it's okay. Don't worry, I'm here to help, he said, giving her a look of reassurance.
Mizuko looked into his eyes, saw that he was telling the truth, and nodded. How did you find us? Mizuko asked.
We've had strange sightings in 2 places in the city. There was a report of people going into an old abandoned church building the other day. And there were reports of people in white coats coming into an abandoned school building just above here. So the other pros and I are investigating the 2... Wait a minute. Did you say us? There's more of you down here?
He asked, concerned. Mizuko nodded. Follow me this way, she said, pointing in the direction of the holding room. Mizuko opened the door to the holding room and went in, the winged man following behind her. I'm back, she said with a little excitement in her voice. Kazune was the first to turn and notice she wasn't alone.
Mizu, get back!
They said, pushing Mizu behind her. No, Kaze! He's here to help us, Mizuko said. Kazune stopped and turned to the winged man. The man had been staring around the room for the past few seconds, in disbelief as to how many kids were being held in one room.
How long have you kids been down here?
He asked, alarmed at the sight.
We've been down here for a little over 4 years, Kazune said.
The kids were just staring at the winged man. They were wary of him.
Don't worry, I'm gonna get you all out of here. I promise, the man said.
The kids then turned to each other and started cheering. Some of the kids started crying with joy and hugging each other. Hibichi stood and walked over to the man.
You really don't know how much this means to us. Thank you. Thank you so much,
she said, bowing in respect to the pro.
Don't worry about it. Promise that nothing like this will happen to you kids again,
the hero said, patting Hibichi's bowed head. More noises from outside indicated that the other pros had arrived as backup. One of them went into the room. It was Edgeshot! He walked over to the winged pro with disbelief in his eyes.
Hawks. These kids. They weren't...
Edgeshot asked. So the hero's name was Hawks. He must have been a new hero because Mizuko had never heard of him. But she did know Edgeshot and knew that someone was going to be excited. She turned to Kazune, who was just staring at Edgeshot. Edgeshot noticed Kazune's stare and walked over to her.
Don't you worry. You're safe now, he said gently.
Kazune tried to wipe tears from her eyes but failed. She ran to the ninja hero and wrapped her arms around him tightly. Edgeshot was surprised but returned the embrace, slightly smiling. Mizuko smiled. She turned to Hawks. We need to go now. before Dr. Gyro comes back," she said determinedly. Hawks nodded and started teaming up with the other pros to get all the kids out. Mizuko did a head count to make sure that everyone was there and started sending everyone up. 44 of the 45 students were now sent up. Mizuko was the last one. Hawks extended his hand to Mizuko and she reached out her hand to take it. But she was stopped by an electrical shock from her neck. Standing at the back of the room was Gyro holding a shocker that was connected to her quirk mark.
Tisk, you think that you could get away from me like that easily, Mizuko? Think again,
he said, walking towards her. Mizuko closed her eyes, waiting for her father to slap her like he normally did to punish her. This time there was no impact. She opened her eyes and gasped in surprise as a booming voice started talking above her.
"This is no way to treat children. As experiments, you're worse than most of the villains I've ever faced in my years as a pro. I won't let you get away with this. You want to know why? Because I am here!"
the voice exclaimed. Mizuko looked up surprised. She was being carried by All Might himself.
"What took you so long, All Might? Got held up at the other facility. Came here as soon as I could," he said.
Mizuko couldn't believe it. Her own favorite pro had come to rescue her. Gyro gritted his teeth.
"Assembled of pieces here? No, the other facility," he said. All Might laughed. "We've already rescued the 4 children that were being captive there. It's over," he told Gyro, who was quivering.
The police then arrived and handcuffed Gyro. All Might then looked down at Mizuko.
"Are you all right, young one?"
he asked her. Mizuko just nodded in astonishment. Within a few minutes, they were back above ground. Dawn was just beginning to break. All Might set Mizuko back down on the ground and stared in the direction of the rising sun. She couldn't believe she was getting to see the sun again, after 4 years of imprisonment. After a couple of minutes, she turned to ask All Might a question. It wasn't anything special, or anything that a fan would normally say to their pro hero. In fact, it was a simple question. She knew she had been down there for 4 years. She didn't know what day or month it was. "What day is it today, All Might?" she asked him. He looked at her a little surprised, but nodded.
"Well, today is the 5th of August. Why do you ask, young one?"
he asked her. August 5th. Upon hearing that date, tears started dripping down her face. All Might looked shocked and knelt down to her.
"What's wrong? Are you all right?"
he asked her. Through her tears, Mizuko answered the pro's question. It's just that today is my 13th birthday," she said, trying to wipe her tears. All Might hugged the crying girl as she couldn't hold back the 4 years of tears she had been holding back. They stood hugging each other for a good 10 minutes before Mizuko fell asleep after crying so much. A couple of days after the rescue, the pro heroes were still debating on where the kids should go.
"We should send them to a school so they could develop their quirks properly," one suggested.
"But what school will accept them? These quirk marks that they have are so powerful, more powerful than any kid should have to deal with," a second mentioned.
"There's also the problem of them finding a soulmate. If they don't do that before they turn 18, they'll die anyway," another one said, alarmed.
Arguments started to rise, but then 3 females stood up. "We have a place for them," one of them said calmly. "It'll be a safe place for them."
"How do you know that you'll be able to help them?"
the leader of the meeting asked. The 3 of them then revealed a quirk mark on a different part of their upper bodies. "This experiment has been done before. There were only 5 survivors of the original project. 3 of us went on to become pros. The other 2, I have no idea where they are. If there's anyone who knows their pain more than us, I highly doubt it." the last one said. The other pros looked at each other and nodded.
All right, but leave the kids in your care. Be wary. They'll most likely be scared of you for a while.
The leader said. The first female nodded. We understand. They'll make arrangements right away, she said. 1 week after the rescue, Mizuko, Kazune, Furuko, Hibiji, Shata, and Shala were standing at the front door of a school building. The other kids behind them were nervously shaking. 2 other kids pushed to the front. They were 2 of the 4 kids who had been rescued from the other facility. One was around Mizuko's height and had red hair, while the other was shorter and had blonde hair. Mizuko, this is a real school, right? The red-haired girl asked her. Mizuko nodded. I believe that it is, she said confidently. Doors opened slowly, as if inviting the kids inside. Mizuko nodded to everyone, and then turned in the direction of the entrance and noticed that there were 3 women standing in front of them. The first was blonde, who wore a purple turtleneck and had a friendly aura about her. The second was shorter, had brown-orange hair and seemed to be more reserved. The third seemed to be the leader. She was the tallest of the 3, had long black hair in a braid, and had a confident smile on her face. Welcome, students. I will be one of your teachers here at the new school. These are my fellow teachers and friends, she said. She first pointed to the blonde. This is Miss Angel. She's also known as the pro hero Ajomatica. The blonde bowed. Nice to meet you all, she said happily. She then pointed to the smallest teacher. This is Miss Trixie, also known as Trick and Trixie in the hero world. The short teacher bowed as well and nodded. As for me, I am Miss Lana. I'm more commonly referred to as Changewing from my hero name, the black-haired woman said. Mizuko was happy to hear that the teachers were all pros. We know that you're scared, but it's okay. We understand, Miss Lana said sadly. What happened next made the students gasp in surprise. Miss Angel pulled back her hair to reveal a quirk mark on her right cheek. Miss Trixie had one on her right eyelid, and Miss Lana had one smack in the middle of her forehead. But they were different. They were full. There was another quirk above their own, and the mark, which meant that they had found their soulmates. We know the pain that you students have gone through. We know the hardships of living with these marks. That's why we're here, to teach you and help you find your partners. We promise to do our very best, she said. The 3 teachers then bowed. Mizuko stared for a minute, but then stepped forward towards the teachers after they stood up. Miss Lana, Miss Angel, Miss Trixie, we look forward to what you will teach us, she said, bowing in respect to them. The other students did the same in return. Mizuko knew that this was going to be a big turning point for them, a new start, and because of a promise that she made to herself 4 years prior, she knew exactly what path she wanted to go down.